All right.
No, not yet. Not yet. No, not ready.
Oh, wow.
All right. All right, well, I guess my part's done now. Thanks, guys.
Brought to you by Devlin. He's up there in that corner.
Well, something about my camera there turning off threw some pictures out of the way here. So, okay, now we're fixed. All right, welcome everybody to episode 56 of Let's Talk Landmark. Pretty interesting week so far. We've got some patch notes to go over, and then as soon as the patch notes and the recent news is over, we'll jump right into Mr. Smokejumper, and we're gonna thrash him, just like that. It's going, it's gonna be awesome. Okay, so I'll kind of jump right into this latest little patch note thing here, and I totally screwed up. I didn't have my patch notes up. My bad.
There's a link there.
Fantastic start already.
It's gonna be awesome. Okay, so I'll kind of jump right into this latest little patch note thing here, and I totally screwed up. I didn't have my patch notes up. My bad.
There's a link there.
Fantastic start already.
We're good. We're good. Okay, I'm on it. So
Smooth as silk.
always.
It's time we're talking about.
It's always.
Real professional gig here.
Basically, you're going to kick off what we have for imagery. We have the props. We have the bone props that were just recently given to us, and they are now on the screen.
I found that humorous.
Bone props? Propped up with bones?
Oh, bone.
What?
You, the
Never
joke. Never
Yeah,
mind, just fine.
way over my head. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you've been transcoded.
Next.
Yep, transcoded.
Next is the pumpkins, and we've got the pumpkins and carved pumpkins, which that I put them all on one image there. We have a tree that is dark and ominous and no leaves on it, which is kind of cool. We have a skeleton that is linkable, linking and triggering, accessible apparently.
So cool.
At least as far as I know, it's link and triggerable, right? Has anybody tested it?
I got the impression.
Yes.
I know it's clickable at least. I haven't actually tried it with
it
linking and
is.
triggering.
Spider. Okay, Spider stopped at my claim. Dropped down his new trike with the skeleton pops out of it with lightning, and it's just dude.
Okay.
Okay.
Isn't that the one that walks away on its own?
Yes, and apparently it walks away on its own if you leave the area and come back, or zone or relog or something like that. It does have issues. Moving on. Emitters. New emitters that we have are bats. It's kind of cool.
Who has a belfry?
And of course my favorite, well actually next to favorite emitter, maggots.
Oh.
I saw the bats, and I instantly thought of the intro to Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
The only thing I got to say about the maggots is that the emitter and the maggots are on the same level, and that kind of kills it sometimes. So you have to put something in the maggots to make it to hide the actual emitter prop.
It's still weird. Okay, and then of course the favorite, which is the lightning emitter, which we have asked for since the conception of emitters. And
You're welcome, everybody.
yes,
Okay.
and to end this up, we've got a black texture which is messed up. And
That is the specialist bug I've ever seen.
it's weird. And of course the best one, which is the bone texture, which is pretty awesome. Gonna love to see what people do with that. I could really see that down in catacombs and stuff like that. You know, we're gonna be cool. All right, now, but that's pretty much everything for the update. Kind of try to pack all that into one little thing, and we have one other bit of news, which is Yams Anderson advancement to executive creative director
Yeah.
for all of Daybreak Games.
It's Tinma. For all those that are watching the show after you've missed it, yeah, it's Tinma.
By the way, Gio's camera is still positioned wrong.
No, it's because he keeps ducking his head. Ain't my fault.
Okay.
All right, but
I have to fix that crap.
but that is the news.
Fix it.
That is the news for today. So let's.
Timmy, they said
Kinda
you're
kidding.
still really loud.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't understand how that's a
Turn that
surprise to
down.
anybody.
Sorry. Hopefully that turned it down at least a little bit there, but we'll see. All right.
Who knows?
Now, on to the questions for tonight. Who wants to kick it off?
You do, of course.
Geotag, you're it.
All right, let me find my mouse here. Well, we're gonna start at the top here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Dave, what IP would you love to work on but never got the chance?
Well, obviously, I always wanted to work with Star Wars. Never got a shot. I'm really glad that like Battlefront is coming out because I've been dying to play an X-wing or TIE Fighter game for years. I mean, years. See, joystick.
Oh man! Oh,
I'm ready.
You are ready.
You are
Yeah.
ready,
Well,
man.
I've been playing Elite Dangerous a lot because well until they broke the VR. Now I'm waiting for them to fix the VR again so I can start playing again. But yeah, I always wanted to mess with Star Wars because I wanted to add to the legacy sort of thing. You know, just being that guy. And I also way back when I was working at Dynamics when we were doing Tribes, there was this ludicrous window of time where I was almost in charge of Tribes. The Tolkien license and Harry Potter, which would have been insane, and I would have completely failed at it.
Wow.
Absolutely failed. But when they were going to put me in charge of Tolkien, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it, and I decided I really wanted to do a Silmarillion-based game, so that there was actual magic and stuff in the Tolkien world. I thought it would be really fun to do a story back then, and lots of room to play. That wasn't copious notes everywhere. Maybe Portal, certainly NASA. I'd like to work with NASA. Stuff.
Cool.
Kerbal Space Program.
Dude, I'd do anything with NASA. Did you see The Martian yet?
No, I've not seen that.
Oh,
I've read
holy
the-
crap.
I've read
you
the
gotta go
book.
see
Is
that
it-
movie. It made me want to go to space all over again. I've been a space nerd since, I watched Neil put foot on the moon when I was about 7 years old.
How many times are we going to have to save Matt Damon? Somebody just put that guy in a rubber room somewhere. Lock his ass up.
No,
I saw that Facebook
don't-
post. That's really awesome.
you don't lock the door until you throw Ben Affleck in there. And come on.
Oh, don't worry. That new Batman movie will do that for him.
Thank you.
Wow. All right.
Epic.
Devlin, you're next.
I'm ready for it.
Alrighty. So, do you, Dave, have
No.
any tips? No. Okay, fine. Very good. Moving on. No. Do you have any tips, tricks, pointers, or just general advice for anybody who is looking at trying to get their foot into the gaming industry? Somebody who wants to get in onto something that, well, you made a career out of.
Yeah, entry level is tough now, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. You got to make something. I mean, you got to get on a mobile app team or a demo team or just anything you can, like contract work. Like recently, I was doing my group is doing a virtual reality demo, and I have a friend who's a professor at a college that teaches game design, and he knew artists that were entry level, and I didn't have any money, so we talked for a little bit, and that got these people involved. And if we get the gig, then that person has a job. So those opportunities are kind of few and far between, but ask your professors for contacts, do anything you can to make something that's actual real. Otherwise, you're just not going to get in. Entry-level position is tough. Everybody's looking for 3 to 5 years of experience, and so you just got to show up with something. That's really what it boils down to. Artists might be able to get away with it with a portfolio. Coders are going to have a tough time if they can't show something. Designers, you better know somebody.
Wow,
You did say it would be depressing, so yeah.
I'm not working for anybody, so I'm going to be really honest this episode.
That's awesome. Honestly, that's great. I like that. All right, Katina, you're up next.
All right, Dave. Personal choice. Do you prefer sci-fi or fantasy?
It's not even a choice. I'd rather do sci-fi than anything. I've been a sci-fi nerd since forever. And I've watched pretty much everything that's sci-fi, even the really crappy stuff on the Sci-Fi Channel. I mean, really, really bad stuff. But I would love to work in that stuff. Tribes 2 and PlanetSide and stuff like that were some of the highlights of my career. The first game I ever did was called Absolute Zero, and I'd still love to totally redo that game in a modern engine. I've always wanted to work on Star Wars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I really like it. Now, that being said, it's kind of funny for me to say that after having done all the EverQuest stuff recently. I do really love fantasy, but if I'm going to pick between the two, then I'm going to choose sci-fi. I like the special effects. I like the wide open thing of it. I like having to extrapolate from little changes that make big changes across the world. And fantasy, a lot of times Star Trek is fantasy, if you want to put it down that way. They just they do a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and then something happens, and they call that a plot resolution. And that's not really sci-fi. Sci-fi is supposed to be extrapolation, and it's about people and their reaction to what actually changed. Like zombie movies are not about zombies. They're about the people that are in that situation, so on and so forth. Sci-fi, really good sci-fi, is about the people, and I love games that are about that kind of stuff, getting people involved and having plots that revolve around that stuff. And unfortunately, to date, fantasy doesn't do that very often.
Sure.
I always thought it would be kind of cool if, when you entered into the game, it was like you were the star of a movie. And things happen. Things happen, you resolve it, and say some time passes, something else happens, and it's how you deal with that problem that is tossed out to you.
Yeah. Well, what
happens later.
I like those ideas because a lot of the stuff that we were approaching with EQN was based with those attitudes in mind. We wanted people to be able to make change. We wanted to be able to do all those other things. And I don't want to talk about EQN because obviously I'm not part of it anymore. And no bitterness, actually, I'm cool. But but I mean, we had a lot of really good ideas, and it was going to be fun to pursue that stuff. And I guess maybe next time.
All right, Murin, you're up next.
So, Dave, what can you tell us about your current projects?
I
got the fun question.
About this stuff. Yeah, no, it's cool. I have to be cagey about it because both of the possibilities that I might get are in discussion right now. And if I say the wrong things, well, it could just crash and burn, and that would be awful because I like both of the opportunities that are available to me right now. One of them is, let's see, how do I phrase this? One of them is an MMO. And it would be working with people that I really respect, that I like a lot, and we might get to open a studio somewhere. That's all I can say about that. And then the other project, which I can say a little bit more about, is I'm trying to get funding for a virtual reality and augmented reality company, because I've been talking to Hollywood people for a long time, and they want a specific thing that I really, really want to build. I mean, I can't tell you how much I want to build it, because it's chasing a direction that other people are just not pursuing right now.
Are you building the holodeck?
Kinda.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. It's been really exciting. We've been doing all kinds of demos and playing with 360 sphere movies and different ways of doing networking, and it's been extremely exciting. The potential is amazing, and I've got this 5-year pitch that I do to people, and if you liked EQN, I'm telling you, it's just, it has nothing to do with EQN, but I mean big ideas. Like we start small and there's a path where we progress through, and the end result would be phenomenal, and I just can't talk about it right now. Give me a couple of months.
That's okay, man.
It's on the cusp. It might actually happen soon.
Real
and when
patient.
it does, I'd love to talk about it.
Well, we've got a crap ton of people in channel right now that totally support you, whatever you do, man.
Cool.
And
that's awesome.
As long as you let us know, you already got to start.
If the funding comes through, I'm going to stand on the roof and yell until everybody knows.
Awesome.
Because,
Awesome.
we've got all this prep work done. We just need the freaking money. And once we get the money, then we can turn on the machines and hire people, and it'll be really cool. I mean, extremely cool. The vision is mighty.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Well,
that's all I can say about that right now.
He's building Tron.
Okay.
I wish I could talk about it.
So wait.
I guess this kind of goes down to me for the next question here, and that is WDD. What does Dave do
Ha!
with his spare time, hobbies, interest outside of video games? Dave as a person.
Well, for the last, since I left SOE, I've been spending my mornings working on pitches and meetings and Skype calls and things like that, trying to get funding together. But in the afternoons and sometimes an occasional week here or there, I take off and I go do stuff that I always wanted to do. So I've been to, over the summer, I went to Iceland and Vegas, all over Oregon, seeing old friends and stuff like that. I went to England for a while and saw a bunch of stuff and almost saw Locke, but not quite. We'll meet up next time. And during that time, I did all kinds of stuff that I just always wanted to do, and even some stuff that I thought I was crazy to try, like jumping out of an airplane, which turned out to be one of the coolest things I've ever done. Skydiving is a blast. But
That
dune
video was
buggies
awesome.
and
Yes.
zip lining and just all kinds of stuff. Oh, you saw the video?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you were here in DC and we couldn't hook up. I was so bummed because you were so close to my house.
Dude, it was, I mean, I have had, the DC stuff was actually a business meeting, but, I can say one business meeting I had too that was crazy because nothing happened with it. I got a call from the White House. Like,
I've been wondering about that.
yeah, so I got this call from the White House one day, an email. I got an email from a White House, from a gal that was a senior cabinet member for the White House, and she wanted me to come meet a sheikh.
Like burger and shake or?
Yeah, burger and shake. That's what I'm. What are you? Yeah, no, like a shake of a Middle Eastern country. And I can't say which country or anything like that, but it was really cool. I was talking. He wanted to talk to me about setting up a Silicon Valley. It was really cool.
Wow. Well,
It didn't work out, but it was a really amazing opportunity. That's one of the reasons why I went out to DC.
well, then my feelings aren't hurt that we didn't hook up. That's okay. Shake wins out.
It was crazy, man. It's fun talking to billionaires. They're really different people. And I've met a bunch of billionaires in over the summer, and yeah, they're just not used to hearing no.
I bet. Wow.
Yeah, no. And I'll just go on record and saying I am not even close. I like rubbing elbows. Those people have got some serious lifestyles.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, just a bunch of stuff. Like I'm working on a Halloween party right now. I have an annual Halloween party where we build all kinds of sets. I don't know that you know about my past Halloween parties. I've had like a full-size pirate ship in my backyard, and volcanoes, and like a Sharknado, which almost tore itself apart. That was really fun, and Martian tripods. And so I build all that kind of stuff, and I'm busy on that right now, and just having fun, really. I mean, just take my time. I don't often get time off when I'm working. I'm kind of nose to the grindstone and make it happen. And so since I'm not there right now, I'm doing everything I always wanted to do, and all the vacations I missed. It's been a blast.
What are you dressing up as for Halloween?
I was going to say this question.
Don't tell me a pirate or whatever the heck that was last time. Don't do that.
That's
No, I wasn't
Don't do
talking
that.
Pictures.
about.
What?
I've been a musketeer and Willy Wonka and pirate, Captain America and things like that. This year, I went to a vintage clothing costuming place in Hollywood, and I rented a costume. I didn't buy it this year. And they had like just a gigantic warehouse full of stuff. It was amazing going through it. But I ended up, I got a badass suit for Halloween.
Oh man!
I will challenge.
I just gotta say, styling.
I will challenge you, Dave. I will challenge you right here and right now. What color is it?
Oh, it's a deep purple, dude. It's Joker purple.
I own a purple zoot suit.
Sweet. Yeah, it's really cool.
You would never catch me dead in one of those.
I think we could arrange that.
I'm still hoping to get a hold of my wig.
Your wig?
My wig, yeah.
What wig is that?
Trump toupee.
What I wanted to go as last year. Katina knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, this
Making
has
me
to be
remember.
Come on
That's
now.
not a good thing. Oh my God.
Okay, everybody. See these little pretty little trees?
Good. Oh, right. Yes, I remember.
Come on. Yeah, That's
He
what
wants to be Bob Ross.
I'm going as Bob Ross. Yeah.
I sent you a link, Tenma.
They actually had a shirt with a squirrel in the pocket.
All right, Gio, you're up next.
All right. So, what are you looking forward to in the gaming industry? What makes you excited with the industry currently?
Well, I kind of gave it away earlier, like Star Wars Battlefront.
That game looks awesome so far.
It looks incredible, and I can't wait to fly X-wing again. I don't even care about the rest of the game, but I'll play it all.
You gonna be on in the game on Wednesday? I mean,
What?
on Thursday, tomorrow. You're gonna be in? Would they open up the beta to everybody?
Oh no, I wasn't aware. I've been nose to the grindstone on other stuff. So it really this weekend, huh?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, man. Tonight at midnight, I think they open. Go to Origin's website.
Are you staying
All
up
right,
late
I had
tonight,
things
Dave?
to do, but I guess I'm going to have to derail them now. And I also have the new Fallout and the new XCOM are games I'm really looking forward to. I played the hell out of XCOM too.
I did too.
Really like that game. And Fallout, I just got to try it, see if this if it's a good IP, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what they do with it.
All right, up next, Devlin.
Oh, and I just played Evil Land too, but that one's finished, so I'm not looking forward to that. Have you played Evil Land? Evil Land 2?
Mm-mm.
Dude, it's great. It's just awesome. Like, if you're an old school gamer, it's really, really fun. I'm not going to get into it really deep, but they do a time travel story, and then the eras they go are past, present, and future. And so what they do is they set you up like at a certain point in the 8-bit history of gaming with the game engine there. And when they go back in time, they actually go to an older game engine with older games play styles.
Oh, wow.
And when they go to the future, it goes to a more modern engine. And they there's double dragon gameplay and all kinds of stuff. It is
That's
like it's a
awesome.
walk through memory lane. It's amazing. It's really fun.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I rarely finish a game, but I finished that one.
Wow. All right, you're up.
Man, I really don't want to ask this question. There was two more down I wanted to ask, but I'll go ahead and ask this one. What, in your opinion, is the biggest problem with video games, as in like today? Like what is the thing that is plaguing video games in the industry as of right now?
The budgets are too big. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Because the budgets are big, it's causing a lot of very conservative thinking on what they can do with games. I mean, it used to be every game was unique. Like in the really old days, every game was unique and every game experience was different. And so when you started a game, you expected to have to figure it out as you went along. Now, unfortunately, because business has gotten big and they're trying to be more mass conscious, and it's not just now, it's like for the last 15 years or so, they've slowly made every game more and more vanilla so that you have to learn less to be able to get into it. And that's partly because the control schemes and everything like that have gotten so complex that they can't throw a curveball at you because you have to know that stuff because that's not fun to learn. It's one of the things I really liked about Evil Land when it went back to that the old game mechanics. They didn't explain half the stuff that you had to figure out when you were going through the game, and it was really refreshing and fun. You had moments of like you're playing along and you're stuck, and then you realize, oh my God, I can actually just push that with this spell. And you look at it, you look at the screen, you're like, I figured something out. I don't have to do that in games anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, like, oh yeah, they call these things puzzles. I remember those. It's just like that stuff is mostly not in the games anymore. They do a lot with the special effects, and everybody wants to make a movie instead of making a game. And some of the games are really good because of that, but most of them aren't when they try. That's really not what games are about. Art is art, and it's very important to games, but games are not movies. They're not TV shows. Stop making them. Try to be that. Just stop. Games are about interactivity and challenge and exploring and finding new cool things and ways to do things that other people haven't done. And when you lose sight of that, you've stopped making games and you're starting to make something else. So yeah, I think that the industry as a whole tends to get lost in the pageantry and glamour and glitz instead of just making a fun thing to play. And unfortunately, most devs that know that, and there's a lot of devs that know that, aren't allowed to really experiment because the budgets are too big and you can't take a chance when you're spending, $40 million. You have to make something that everybody can agree will tend to make more money, which means that what we end up with is like 10 IPs that are there every single freaking year, and we're playing version 23 of the biggest IP from last year. And I personally am tired of it. I'm kind of sick to death of it. I like making new games. I have a whole career of making innovative content and innovative gameplay. And I like to do that. I wish there was more people that were able to do that.
This is kind of on the same little trip there. Wouldn't that kind of fall on the CFO for that? If just because you ask for it, there better be a justification for it.
You can't blame just one guy. It's never one guy that makes these decisions. There's always like generally what happens is marketing will say something like, "Hey, do you think there's really a market for that?" And then that makes the developer, without being told what to do, it makes the developer go back to the trough and say, maybe that isn't a big enough audience. And the moment they do that, then they start trying to come up with ideas that are going to please a lot of people, and then they stop. It limits the number of choices that they can make. They can still make a really good game that way, but they've removed a lot of the options for themselves, and that means they tend to not make things that are unique. It's not anybody. Nobody's guilty. It's the fact that the budgets have gotten bigger, and honestly, the player expectations have gotten so high, you can't back down from it. You can't. Or else your game will just sit there. It'll look like an indie game. You have to put that kind of graphics and glitter and glitz into it, or you can't sell it, which means that the budgets go up, which means that everybody gets conservative, and it's not just the CFO, it's everybody. Even the developers get conservative.
Cool. All right, next, Katina.
Well, I think he kind of already answered the next one, which says what makes a good video game.
Well, there is no one answer for what makes a good video game, because there's a million different video games. And if I had my way, every single one of them would be unique, and good luck answering the question, right? But the things that I like are like when a game is a little bit innovative. It assumes that the players are intelligent enough to figure stuff out. I love it when the game thinks that I'm smart. Even when I'm not, and I get stuck, I love it when it assumes that I'm smart and can figure it out. I, of course, like everybody, want my game to be glorious to behold. I want it to be visually splendiferous. Even if it's like in a niche, I want it to be perfect. I want it to look right. But I want a lot of challenges. And ultimately, I want to be beat to a frazzle right at the end of the game and still win. Because everybody's favorite game is the one they beat.
Yep.
Period.
Exactly.
You're either really good at it or you beat it, and that's your favorite game. I don't care what it is.
That's the one you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one you like the best. You're proud of it. You get to brag to people and say, "Yeah, I beat Evil Land 2," and everybody else goes, "What the hell's Evil Land 2?" But anyway.
Well, I mean, for me, when I was growing up, me and my best friend, we played Contra.
Yeah.
In 2-player mode, and without cheats, and beat the crap out of that game. I mean, and it was a challenge. It was one of the newest games out.
And it was absolutely just hellish on people.
And we beat it.
when we used to build games like back in the dawn of time, we used to build games where you could get in and it was reasonably easy, and then the game would kind of stay at that level, and then it would start to ramp up towards the end. And when you got to those last few missions, man, it was like every man for himself. And it was really fun to trying to get over that cusp. And the challenge was to make those experiences fun enough that you didn't mind going over and over and over again. And it was totally cool as long as the player felt like, oh, this time I got a little bit further. This time I got a little bit further. Yeah. And then finally, when you beat it, you're like, yeah, I rock, I'm awesome. Then you're like fist pumping the air and doing all that other stuff, even though you're by yourself, and it's completely insane to do that.
Kind of like Mario Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Battletoads. And we just kind of don't do that anymore. Now the difficulty in games is usually like a very gradual curve that really just kind of stays at almost the same level, and you don't get a huge variety of challenges when you go through. And that kind of goes back to what's wrong with the games today.
Yeah, I was about to say.
If I was going to pick something, it'd be that.
It sounded like those two things have a lot to do with one another, because based on what you were saying, if it stays steady, there's no real challenge both for the players themselves. So it sounds like those two are related.
What do you think?
Granted, what I'm talking about there is mostly single player. You can't do that in an MMO. You just can't. There's no way, because there is no end. So you can't ramp up to an end when you're doing an MMO. So that's a different challenge. But a lot of the games that I play are like you pay once and play it, like everybody does, and you play single player games, and those could be more fun, I think.
After all these years, what do you think the attraction to EverQuest is? I mean, they're still rolling out X-Packs.
It's insane.
EverQuest, EVE Online, you can go down the list. They're a flavor you can't get anywhere else. I mean, I've said this over and over and over again. That's why I think that unique is actually a plan to win, and why I'm always pushing to make unique games. Because if you make a game that taste cannot be provided by a different game somewhere else, those people are going to be loyal and they're going to play a long time because they like that game. Now, you might only get 50 or 100,000 people that are that loyal, but they're going to be with you forever.
Yeah, 22 expansions, right?
Off of it. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Tribes, like the original Tribes, sold almost no units. It got pirated a lot, but it was sold almost no units. When we took that same gameplay and added a little bit to it, we sold over 300,000 units when that was a lot of units back then.
I still got the box for Tribes.
That was a good game.
I've still got it.
But it was completely unique. You still can't get that flavor anywhere else. Well, that's not quite true. They've started adding jump packs to other stuff. But in general, that gameplay has never really been equaled or duplicated. And there's a lot of gameplay like that. When they pop up unique like that, people just don't exploit it. I still have no idea why Sierra hasn't made another Tribes game.
All right. Murin, you're up.
So the next one is, games seem to be moving towards a mobile-first future. Cell phones, handhelds, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
When you're in business to make games, you have to make games where the people are. And so right now, obviously, there's a hell of a lot of cell phones out there. Now, around the corner, especially if I get to do anything with it, hopefully virtual reality will become incredibly popular because... Well, you've never experienced anything like that if you haven't played virtual reality. You just have no idea. It's like before people knew what an iPhone was. You'd be hearing all this crap about it. Apple has this new phone, and you're like, yeah, I already have my cool little flip phone. I don't need your stinking phone. It's useless. And then you try one, and you're like, oh my God, my life has changed. And in my opinion, that's exactly what VR does. When you put the goggles on, you play something legitimate, like Elite Dangerous or something like that, you start going, yeah, oh my God, how did I ever play a flight sim where when the ship goes by you, you just, I mean, your hand is on the joystick, the ship goes by you, and instead of tracking the arrow around on your 2D monitor, you just look. You're like, and you naturally steer towards it, and it's phenomenal.
Oh,
and, it just gets better and better. So when you have those experiences, and then you start matching graphics and sound and stuff to it, it's really immersive. It's very cool, and I think it's inevitable that it will happen. But anyway, the reason why I brought that up was, as VR explodes, it's going to need hardware to drive it, and that's not a phone. I mean, if you look at the Oculus Rift specs, they've already said not only are we not supporting phones, we're not supporting Macs because they're not high enough spec. Which means that the PC is really the base if you want virtual reality right now. Now, phones can catch up, but in theory, just like always, PC is going to lead the power pack. It's always going to be the front of the pack. So the best virtual reality experience is always going to be on a PC.
Cancel phone service, upgrade computer.
That might not happen for
By
a
the
while.
way, Dave, the phone analogy doesn't work for Tenma. He has a BlackBerry.
I do. I still use a BlackBerry, even to this day. So, yeah.
George, show your phone.
It works.
Yeah, look at this, man.
That's Tim's phone right there.
I told Dave I was going to call him from 1985.
It still works. It gives me my text and my email. That's all I care.
Stylus? Do you have a little stylus for your buttons?
No.
No. Pull it out of the side.
This is the real deal. It still works.
No, but what I mean is that, like, right now, sure, mobile is where you should build games, or you should at least embrace it. You're silly if you don't. And even when we do VR, we may end up doing stuff that is lots of stuff is integrated into a big game that is fully VR, if and when that actually happens. Well, probably when that actually happens. I'm just not sure, because who knows when the consumer products will filter in. But eventually, yeah, the PC has survived many reports of its demise, and I think it will continue to be strong.
Awesome. I guess that rolls back to me now, right? So, with how MMOs have evolved, do you think the story aspect of them is being greatly minimized in favor of isolated quests and working toward nice in-game items?
Yeah. I mean, I can support that a lot, but yes. And it's going to keep doing that until somebody comes up with another progression path. system. Because if you're going to set up your progression for your characters and base it on a mission-based structure, well, stories are going to get told through that mission-based structure. That's really the only thing you can do. So if you want to change that structure, you have to pretty radically change how players progress through the game. And I have ideas on that. And if I get to build that MMO project I mentioned earlier, then maybe we'll get to implement some of that. I have actually talked to a couple of people over at that unnamed company, and they thought it was kind of a cool idea, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I would like to see it. I would love to see it because I think we're all sick to death of looking for the guy with the exclamation point over his head, right?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Shots fired.
And no matter how good, I think that there's a lot. Okay, I'll tip my hand a little bit. I think there's a lot you can do with involving NPCs around your character. Let's see, I don't want to spoil stuff. NPCs around your character that are actually tied into the character that you created. In fact, perhaps you could even create NPCs that are associated with your character, and then have the game screw around with those NPCs as your character progresses. And I think that that could be very involving, and then you could do cross stories between players to get them interested in the other people's NPCs and the plot lines that go on there, and then that evolves stories, and you don't even have to change the level progression pattern for that.
Awesome.
So I don't know. There's definitely ideas.
That sounds cool.
That's like something we were hoping to do eventually with the game mastering tools that we're hoping to get. We'll see.
Yeah, the problem with the game mastering tools is, well, you have an obvious case in point that requires the company to retain a vision long enough for that to actually occur.
Nice way to put it.
All right, moving on, Geo. we're getting
happened. That stuff hits the floor.
We're getting too close to NDA there. I don't want to touch that.
We don't want to get you in trouble.
Is there a way to develop a solid MMO or RPG without the millions and millions of dollars price tag?
No. No, I mean, there just really isn't. Like, if you're going to start from scratch, MMOs are the worst idea you can ever have. Because the infrastructure you have to lay in, the server infrastructure, the monetization infrastructure, all the systems, all the stuff that you have to do, even if you start with something like Unreal or Unity and you start building from that, you just have a massive amount of cost that has to be done.
Let me throw this back on you, though. When EverQuest started, in the very beginning, did they have that huge budget?
EverQuest is hilarious to talk about if you know anybody that was there. I was a player. I was working at a different company, so I was not an original EverQuest dev. But the stories I love that they tell about, like, how the hard drives were melting because there was no database. So anytime you picked up an item or put it down, it was doing a hard drive read and write, and it was literally melting the disk platters. They had to wear asbestos gloves to touch the hard drives to remove them and put new ones in. I mean, it's just crazy. So, like,
that's awesome.
You're really not going to do it that way. Again, is what my point is. And the expenses is very, very high to set this stuff up. Because the expectation on an MMO is gigantic. Mm-hmm. It can't just have a little game and you call it an MMO anymore. It has to have all of the games that you're used to and all the elements, guilds and housing and just all this stuff that's not core game specific, and that's very, very expensive to set up. So even when you defray it by using other people's systems like third-party software, we're already doing that. Like, we already use audio software and physics software and stuff like that are third-party developers, and we plug that in so that we can stay as cheap as possible, and it's still millions and millions of dollars.
All right, Devlin, this is a good time for you.
Okay. As a follow-up to that question, are there off-the-shelf components, such as a game engine, that could be tweaked for a certain project to save on development costs?
Okay, I just sort of answered that question. So yeah, I mean, yes, and we're using them already. The only real discussion is how much of your art do you want to outsource to another country? Like Russia or Asia or something like that, because you can get really good end results, but it's obviously difficult to not have your artists in-house because it really restricts brainstorming and stuff like that. But you can do things on the cheap, and most people are already doing that. And you can use third-party software like physics and sound and things like that. But again, most people are already doing that. So really the only discussion that's left is Should you build your own engine or should you use one off the shelf like Unreal or Unity? And that's actually a constant and solid argument on both sides of the fence, because when you use Unreal or Unity, you obviously sacrifice some game design ideas to fit. You have to design within the fences that they set. Luckily, both of those engines are pretty good, so they're pretty broad fences, but you still have to design within those. If you're building your own, it's obviously a lot more expensive and takes a lot more time, but then you get to build an engine that exactly meets whatever your game design ideas were.
Yeah,
like, for instance, Landmark and EQN would have been impossible if we didn't go on our own a lot for things like terrain and rendering and blah, blah, blah.
Well,
it just wouldn't have happened. We couldn't have done that on the scale that we wanted, that Minecraft-esque block system. It just couldn't have happened otherwise.
Yeah, but also using these other engines like Unity and Unreal, you know, using their engine to create your own game, if you do release it to the public, they get a percentage.
Yeah, but it's a tiny percentage, just like 5% or less, isn't it?
I haven't looked it up lately.
Considering the fact that you often give 50% to your IP provider, you know, it's just 5%. If it saves you a lot of time and effort, then it's worth it. And by a lot of time and effort, I mean like a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
It is.
It's a lot. It's a lot of money. Like when you figure that, well, you've seen the salaries. Let's say an average coder is still getting paid somewhere around $90K a year. Now multiply that by 10 guys, and then that's your price for them to do stuff for a year. That's expensive. So how much are you going to pay if you pay 5%? Well, it depends upon the size of your hit. And if you get a real monster hit, you can afford the 5%. So, it's a constant discussion, and I'm okay either. Honestly, I'll be a developer on either side of that fence.
All right, Katina, bam.
I like building our own. I do.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you believe games can develop into a viable way of storytelling? For example, making a film within a game environment that has the depth of story and characters of regular TV shows and movies.
I think
Do you mean should the game feel like a TV or movie, or do you mean having tools within it in order to make movies, like Machinima?
No, it's do you believe games can develop into a viable way of storytelling?
That's not what I read.
Huh.
That's what yeah.
Well, I'm a tiny bit confused by that, so I'll try to answer both questions. Well, I kind of answered the first one already, which was basically I don't believe the games should try to be TVs or movies.
Yes.
I just don't.
Right.
I think that story and characterization are important within games, but they are secondary to the main point, which is fun and interactivity. And if you're setting up challenges and entertaining things on that level, then the other stuff is gravy, and should be treated that way. Now, on the other hand, if a company has a success, like if you have a big IP and you're trying to figure out what to do in the next sequel to make it even bigger, adding machinima tools in there is obviously a really good idea because of all the virality it creates for your game. Like lots of people would be putting out content. But if you have a small game, pursuing that might not be really very cost effective, because if you spend a lot of time on that, you're not spending time on your core game, which probably means you're making a mistake. So I think it will eventually happen. Somebody is going to get it passionate, or they're going to have, excuse me, Pepsi. Somebody's going to make a game concept where making a movie is a cool part of it. Like, all right, I shouldn't mention this, but has anybody ever heard of the English game Lulu?
No.
Kind of a classic. Look it up later. It's kind of awesome. You have to build your own sex porno empire.
Awesome.
And part of that is actually.
Do we want to know why you know about this?
That sounds like a leisure
research.
That sounds kind of like
research.
Exactly.
That kind of sounds like Leisure Suit Larry to me.
It was actually it's pretty similar, but not as funny. It's more like I call it sim porn because that's exactly what it is. Like the original one, the one I played. This is a total tangent, and I hope you don't mind. And I'm totally ruining my reputation.
Please do.
Yay! So, what you do in the original one is you're a guy with a girlfriend, a nubile girlfriend, and a partner who knock off a bank in Arizona, and it goes bust, and everybody splits and goes their way, and you end up with a bag of cash and your nubile girlfriend, and you have to parlay that up into a porno empire. Yes.
Wow.
One
It's
does.
totally set up like a sim game. You have to you make a movie and then you earn money to be able to buy better cameras and better lighting, and you end up learning like more than you thought you would. It's weird. And
Wow.
not very terribly graphic. It's really not. Anyway, wow, I don't remember how we got there.
Storytelling the movie making.
Let's keep on going.
Thanks for that.
So anyway,
Can
that particular game could obviously have elements of making movies, and maybe you'd use them their way, and maybe you'd use them for other stuff, evil or good, whichever you want to go. But obviously, a game like that might be able to justify creating tools like that. So, or possibly something that was non-porn oriented might be able to do it too. But in general, like a shooter would have a hard time justifying that kind of feature set. Whew, good recovery.
Note
All right.
to self, research Lulu. Okay.
Moving on. Murin, you're up next.
Okay, so this one's a
Look up the
multi-part
free-to-play
question.
one. Look up the older one.
I'm going to start easy. Are you a free-to-play advocate?
When I'm playing single player, I want to pay one price and be done. When I'm playing MMO, I want to play free to play because I'm totally fine with not buying stuff if I don't want it, and if I do want it, I don't mind buying it. I've got some ready cash; it's not that big a deal. As a dev, I really like doing free to play because, like I've said a million times, it puts all of the onus on making the game good long term on the developers instead of putting the burden on the consumers. And I, honest to God, love that. I like the fact that the developers are being held to the fire and told, "Hey, make something good, or we're not going to give you any money." And I enjoy that. I think it's the right way to make games. I think it's just morally cool. Now, sometimes people do free to play wrong. Well, sometimes people make shoe stores that don't work. So there 85% of businesses fail, and that's true of games too. Some people just do it poorly. The ones that do it well, it's usually a pleasure to play those games. So I like them. I still like free to play.
Awesome.
Even though it's a colossal pain in the butt for devs. It is a huge pain in the butt for devs.
So,
We're constant- Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how do you feel about true free-to-play where it's free-to-play and what you buy is like cosmetic or doesn't really impact your playability versus a play-to-win model? Pay-to-win, I mean, sorry.
Oddly, I'm like one of those people that's kind of okay with pay to win because that's life. But I'm definitely the minority in that. And I don't make pay to win games. I'm not.
You are the minority in that.
It's not business savvy to make a pay to win game. It's going to paint you into a little corner, with the exception of things like World of Tanks, and even they moved away from it. So I don't like pay to win, although as a concept, I don't really have a problem with it as long as there's like a gigantic placard at the beginning of the game that says, "Hey, if you don't pay anything, don't expect to win." And if that was done right at the beginning, I don't have any problem with it. People can go in there and compete on that front if they want to. Maybe that's interesting for some games, maybe it's not. But like the way I think of for pay to win or pay to play, like I would love to see a lot more of the player-sponsored tournaments for any kind of game where you pony up $5 and there's a huge cash prize, but all of the money came from the players rather than the devs. I think stuff like that is really cool and isn't exploited largely right now. Some people are doing it well. Mostly I like cosmetic stuff. Everybody likes cosmetic stuff, but after a while it just becomes how many shirts do you need,
Me personally, I like the Guild Wars 2 model, where you buy the expansions, but it's still under a free-to-play. If I want to go to the next expansion, then I pay for it. If not, I can stick with what I got.
And that's a constant design discussion too. Like, do you want to segregate the population like that? Because if the only people that pay, if only the people that pay can go to the new territories, then that means your true to free to players can't go there, which means that you have divided your population. And in an MMO, that's a really bad thing. You need the critical mass to stay together so that friends can hang out. So what you're really doing when you do something like that is you're saying, y'all are all going to pay. You just have to decide when you're going to pay.
But I like that one-time payment. I'm done. I've paid it once, and that's all I've got to deal with. Whereas there's other people or other games out there that it's just that constant sucking you dry over time, which is World of Warcraft. There's still subscription. They're still sucking you dry and putting out expansions, and then sucking you dry again for the expansion.
That being said, I agree with you.
And that's the way I look at it.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, you can look at a subscription. Like the problem is that what they need to do is they need to just change the word subscription to VIP Club. It's a free to play game. And you have to pay for expansions. And if you pay the VIP monthly membership fee, then you get access to all this really cool stuff that doesn't really have any bearing on your end result or your power level or any of the other stuff. But it's a whole nest of features that are only available to the club card people. It's what airlines do. It's what lots of services do and everything like that. And just stop calling it a subscription. Because when you call it a subscription, it makes people feel like, well, I should be getting the whole game for that subscription price. And then you get into a whole free-for-all on that concept. So I don't know, the idea of having a recurring monthly charge is fine by me. Just call it something else.
Yeah, something else. Yeah, I mean, if I'm paying a monthly subscription, then I should get the expansion for free. That's the way I look at it.
Well, right, and that's why I'm saying you can't call it a subscription, because it causes this kind of argument to happen.
Yeah,
you have to just make it really clear that that's just not part of the stuff that you get for that you get for free.
All right. Well, we're pushing.
I would rather make a game where you don't even have to pay for the expansions.
Okay,
that's obviously a challenge because monetization, is rough that way.
We're going into the speed round now. We got a lot of questions.
Yes.
6 minutes to go.
Okay.
All right. Do you see a viable future in procedural-based games?
Yes, it's a nut that nobody's cracked, but it has to be cracked because manually creating content is way, way, way too expensive. And if we want to lower the price, that's the way.
Okay. Gio, next, go.
With the advent of female gamers now outnumbering males, according to the recent statistics, how do you think this will influence future game development?
I'm gonna get in trouble. Okay, I don't think it's gonna matter. I don't think it's gonna matter much. And the reason why I don't think it's gonna matter much is because, today's gamers that are coming up into the fold right now are being indoctrinated on the same games that guys are. Attitudes for girls are way different than they used to be. And what it really boils down to is girls usually like shooting a zombie just as much as a guy likes shooting a zombie, but a guy doesn't like playing Barbie's Playhouse. So guess which game's going to get made by the devs? You know what I mean? Just simply for the fact that it's just a bigger audience. Now, games might get smarter because girls are involved, because girls, and boy, this is a generalization, and don't shoot me to death on it, but girls as a whole, my own personal experience, they're a lot more curious about what's going on inside of a game. They experiment, they explore, they do that kind of stuff, and I think that causes game developers that want to embrace the female gamer to make the game a little bit more the kind of game that I find interesting, unique, where there's challenges that you can uncover, Easter egg sort of stuff that you bump into. But as far as is there going to be more pink options? Is there going to be lots of prettier guys? That's not what it's about.
Half the guys play females anyways.
Okay, Devlin, go.
All right, so with progression of AI in gaming, how can this make games less linear and more personal to the player?
What? Say it again?
With progression of AI in gaming, how can this make games less linear and more personal to the player?
Well, that gets into the whole idea about how AI interacts with your character. And since we're in the speed round, that's going to be really difficult to answer succinctly. But the smarter the AI is, and the better the design tools, and that's really the critical part, then the more things that they can react to on a customized basis, and you can start having the AI involved, and then the story can feel more complex without necessarily being completely original, and you can get better end result that way. But AI in and of itself is not usually a make or break for a game. Okay, there's different things. Like pathfinding is different than AI. Okay? Mm-hmm. Yes, they're both AI, and I'll get in trouble with coders for saying that. But pathfinding is a different kind of solution, and that has to be Brainiac level. It has to be great. Bulletproof. It needs to be awesome. But AI itself, like how they react to you and everything like that, Smoke and Mirrors works really well for that stuff because it's very difficult to see the inner thinkings of a mob. You remember when you played the original Doom? Okay, this is going way back.
Oh yeah.
People gave Carmack all kinds of credit for amazing AI in that game because you'd be firing down the hallway at a bunch of demons or whatever they were, and then all of a sudden a couple of them would start coming up behind you, and then you'd be attacked from behind, and everybody was all excited. Oh my God, they're smart. But that wasn't what happened. What happened was there was so many of them trying to get into the corridor that they couldn't all get there, and these ones in the back found an alternate path. They weren't sneaking up on you. They just couldn't get through, and they bounced around the edge. And so sometimes stuff just happens in games that makes you think that they're amazing, but they're really not. And you just take advantage of that stuff when you go in and you're doing your design work. When you start to see how the game engine works, then you maximize your layouts and your designs and everything like that so that the AI looks smart and then it feels smart, and that's really all that matters.
All right. Well,
people aren't going to like that answer. Oh well.
We're gonna be
decent enough for me.
I'm skipping through a few questions here and go into a next little section, and then we're gonna go into our chat questions, and then we'll end it up right there. How's that?
Okay.
Sounds
okay.
Good.
Why do you think games and MMOs in particular have such a great power to unite people from around the world and form lasting bonds of friendship with people you have never met in person?
I love this question because it's what I love about MMOs. When you play an MMO, especially when you're not on VoIP, like pre-VoIP days, you got to be exactly who you wanted to be rather than who you are. Mm-hmm. And the person that you want to be, the person that you think is a good you, is it's really fun to relate to other people as that person. I don't mean like you're pretending to be a troll. I just mean like some people are just better people when they're online because they're free of all the claptrap that goes on with the real life. And so international boundaries, gender, all that stuff just kind of goes away when you're inside of a game, and that lets people be more pure. Their personalities are more pure, which means that they're actually seeing the real other person a lot of the time, which means that when you connect with them, it has potential for a really long lasting relationship. People lie and stuff like that online. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been in the middle of guild drama and all this other crap. But in general, when you find somebody that really clicks, you don't have to know anything else about them. It's just fun to keep playing games with them, and you don't ever want to lose. That's why so many groups go from game to game to game. And I love that about the internet and online gaming as a whole, and it's why I keep coming back to the trough over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
All
Next
right.
time people at work tell me I'm wrong, I'm going to tell them, a dev told me that.
All right.
Well, like, I gamed with a guy back in I think it was EverQuest, might have been Dayok, for 3 months before I found out he lived in Zurich. He spoke better English than I did, and he was a totally cool guy, and he just played in my time zone because he worked graveyard. But yeah, it's just you just don't know where people are from, and that's awesome. It's just awesome.
All right. Going into the our viewers here that they have a few questions that have been picked up as we've kind of gone along here. Thank you, whoever was grabbing those.
Gio.
You're welcome.
Zach Sadu has a question. What's Dave planning to dress up for as Halloween? Which I think we've already covered that.
Yeah, we got that one.
Yes.
Okay, so move on to the next one. Tal Lurker asked, are you a backer or follower of Star Citizen?
I am not. I talked to Chris Roberts at a panel about probably 3 years ago now, maybe 2, but probably 3. And I loved a lot of the ideas. In fact, we were like-minded on a lot of stuff when we were talking EQN versus Star Citizen. I really liked a lot of what he had to say, but I haven't followed it at all, except for some of the recent press articles because, well, the storm that's happening right now between people is interesting to read about. But I haven't really been following it.
All right. And this one comes from Alien Paragon. What are you currently watching that is sci-fi or your favorite sci-fi TV series?
Yes, I like this question.
Okay, my favorite. Currently, I'm actually rewatching a lot of the Star Treks, which is why I'm annoyed by all the gobbledygook stuff.
Yes.
I started out. This shows you I have way too much time on my hands. I decided to watch all the Star Trek series in reverse order. So I started with Enterprise.
Yes, but you have to.
I went to
Yes,
Voyager, and then I went back. I keep going backwards because it lets me watch how they interconnect, and it's been really interesting. Some of them are hard to get through, but that's been fun. But as far as favorite shows, I really liked the original Stargate stuff. I liked. Well, there's not a lot of really awesome sci-fi TV shows.
What was the sci-fi show that God, what was that guy's name? Brewer.
I liked Fringe. Fringe was pretty fun. What were you saying, Dave?
Oh,
gosh, what's the one that was put on by Jim Henson?
wasn't it with Fred Dryer or something?
Oh no, not Farscape. No.
Farscape, yeah.
No.
I liked Farscape. Claudia Black. I mean, come on.
Couldn't I give up, man? He's sitting
I had
at the
all this
pit.
free
No.
time. Yeah, I had all this free time, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Netflix! I love Netflix. Let's go on Netflix and check out all these shows." And I've watched like just so many series. I couldn't get into Farscape. It's so hard to watch those Muppets.
What about
I
Continuum?
I loved it. Okay, listen.
Yeah, I think it was one of those shows that was good then, and is hard to watch now.
Did you watch Continuum?
Oh.
I did a little bit. It didn't catch me.
Okay,
I love time travel stuff. That's my favorite sci-fi. Any time travel stuff where it gets a twist at the end and everybody gets screwed. Favorite time travel stories ever. I love those shows. Yeah, those are awesome.
okay.
What was that movie where everybody got superpowers? The meteor landed. It was an indie movie. The meteor landed and they all touched it and they got those superpowers. What was that called? Come on, somebody knows, right?
Heroes? No.
No, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Chronicle.
Yes, Chronicle. Yeah.
Chronicle. That was badass. I love that show.
And they all got screwed at the end.
I love that. Like that horror movie, The Mist. Best ending ever. I don't know whether you guys have seen it or not.
Oh yeah.
All right, next question is from Jonquill135. What is your strangest hobby, pastime, and why do you enjoy it?
Strangest. Well, I mean, there's stuff that people don't usually know about me. Like I play trumpet, and so I practice trumpet pretty much 30 minutes a day, and I've done a lot of stuff that way. But strangest. Yeah, I'm not that out of the ordinary, but I like to try pretty much anything. I don't do things more than once or twice most of the time. I move on. There's so many things to do.
All right.
Sorry, lame answer.
Now, recently you've
Not all winners, folks.
You've had this obsession with Megabot.
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. I've made 4 giant robot games. There is absolutely no way they're going to do a real giant robot combat game or combat battle, and I'm not going to be there. Like I used to watch BattleBots and all that stuff, and these guys came up. Let's just say I went all the way to the top on the backing on that one, and I'm going to be in that pit crew when that show happens.
I played the original Mech Warrior.
Yeah.
When it came out. I mean,
well, I worked on Mech Warrior too. I don't know if you know that or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome. All right.
Back in Activision days.
Next question. What do you think is the most promising new technology that will change the way we game?
VR. Oh, did you see that HoloLens demo they just put out? Like that Microsoft put out the day or so before. Yeah, it was really badass. So they show the HoloLens is attached to a camera, so you can actually see what the player sees. And they have a gauntleted
Yes.
AR gauntlet on it, and he's blasting it, the stuff that's coming out of the real walls. Yes, that's going to be badass. Now, couple that with a lot more stuff that's going on, it's going to be amazing. So, yeah, VR and AR are going to really change things, and people just have no idea how big it's going to be. I've been experimenting with this stuff for over a year now. And I was playing with it longer than that, but I mean, like, seriously, like, considering trying to get a business started with it. And so we've been putting a lot of work into it, and people are just scratching the top of the of what's possible right now. The tech is almost there, but not quite.
Okay, last question, and then we'll ask you one last question.
Okay.
Who is your favorite Doctor?
I actually liked. I don't like the current one.
Come on,
I don't like him at all.
Please say Tom Baker. Come on.
No, it's not Tom Baker.
What?
It's not Tom Baker. I actually liked. I'm having a horrible. I'm gonna have to turn in my geek card right now. But the last one, Matt
Smith.
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith. I really liked the writing when Matt Smith was the Doctor. I thought that the stories were good. I thought that they revealed a lot more of the Doctor's personality. I thought it was great. A lot of people like the one before him, Tennant.
Yeah.
Tennant.
I like Matt.
But I didn't like the writing as well. So I liked the Matt Smith years a lot better, and it was my favorite run.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the new one either.
Yeah, the new one, he was. You know what he was really good in was that the BBC Musketeers production when he was the bad guy, the religious leader.
Yeah.
My brain is frazzled. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. I know what you're talking about. And
what's his name? Anyway, he was fantastic at it, and then he got the Doctor Who gig, and so they wrote him out on the second show, and now that show is just lame, because without that arch rival, then the Musketeers have nothing to fight against. That's a really good show, though. Look it up.
Okay, final question for the night, and that is
Richelieu, Cardinal Richelieu. Thank you, Super Dork. Yes, wonderful. What a great name to get the trivia. That's awesome.
Winner of
all right. All right, last question, and that is this: what's next for Dave?
One of those two options. It's VR or MMO. One of those two options is where I'm going. Hopefully one of those two pans out, but even if it doesn't pan out, sometime next year I'll get involved with somebody doing one of those two things. Those are the two things that I'm passionate about. I know that I would love to do either one of them. It's just somebody's got to sign on the dotted line.
Awesome. All right, well, that ends episode 56 of Let's Talk Landmark. Thank you all for joining us. Man, definitely stick around this coming Monday where Gio will be having a very special guest on his show as well. So definitely come around, hang out with us, and all that kind of good stuff. And, yeah, have a good night, guys.
Cool. Thanks.
Boom.
Bye.